What's up? My name is Ashley Koyman, and I have been traveling the country since November of 2022 in my little tiny vintage U-Haul camper from 1985. I wanted to take a little time and talk to you guys about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and why I'm doing it. It's been quite the journey, and this is my third trip around the country with this little U-Haul camper, and this one has been by far the best trip. The first trip was a bunch of ugly cries in 2019. The second trip was a little odd, and my senior dog at the time came down with a debilitating disease that I had to bring her home for, so I had to abort that trip a little early. And then this trip has been by far the longest, but also the most enlightening, and I've had a lot of epiphanies on this trip. But I just want to take a little time and talk to you guys about me, who I am, and what the heck am I doing? I wanted to share a quick montage with you guys of what this vacation adventure has been like. It's not always rainbows and butterflies like I'm about to show you, but I wanted to give you all of the highlights before we dive in. Traveling the country with my sweet cat Rupert and my dog Charlie. She's a white Siberian Husky, but this little turd chased me down in 2020 and made me his mother. And I was like, we have to work something out, dude, because I travel. So we worked it out, clearly. He's a little adventure cat. I've been so lucky to have him along for this ride, and he has adapted perfectly. Gosh, I'm a dork. All right. This is my white Siberian Husky Charlie. She is trying to camouflage herself. Very dirty, but it's her life. It's a dog's life. I'm just living in it. So this is what we do all day. Crazy fact about me, I bought this camper off of Facebook Marketplace for $6,000, and my dad actually installed $1,000 worth of solar on this camper for me. And then I paid about $400 for my hitch hookup. So when I first bought this camper, fun fact, I did not have a hitch on my car. Thankfully, I have parents that have a ton of campers, and they have all the hitches and all the things, and my dad went and picked up the camper for me from a lady in Georgia, and I was just so grateful to find this thing on Facebook Marketplace while I was looking for a scam. It has been incredible to travel in. Does it have its challenges? Oh yeah, it has its challenges. But the reward is so great when you do put yourself through something like this and you get outside of your comfort zone. Just to reiterate, I didn't have a hitch on my car when I first bought the camper. That also means I had to learn how to tow. So I had a dream, but I didn't have anything else. And I built this dream from scratch. So what prompted the trip for me was in 2018, I was laid off from work for the very first time in my life. I had always done what I was supposed to do. I was going through the motions. I had left my career of 16 years, and I got into executive recruiting. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm kind of a little bit of a wild child. I'm like a introvert, extrovert, but I love to be around people, and sitting in a cubicle all day was not my thing. I was lying to myself and trying to force myself into a place where I didn't belong, and obviously the company saw that. So that was the first time I was ever let go from a job, and it was debilitating, but it got me to where we are right now on this trip of a lifetime, and having so many experiences. I can't even articulate how enlightening this entire trip has been. So we're out here just winging it. I really don't have a plan, and every time I take a trip like this, I don't book things. I usually just see what I can find as far as what's available, and I do a lot of boondocking, and I find places that are free to camp or very low cost. Right now I'm at a campground that's $5 a night. Sorry, there's flies and mosquitoes. And I'm just enjoying the heck out of being here right now and having a place to stop and like rejuvenate after this long haul up the coast that we just did. So we went all the way from Tijuana River Valley all the way to Nia Bay, and I did have to book a lot of places to stay on this trip, so that was something that I didn't really budget for because I'm so used to boondocking in the central US, Midwest and places like that. And on this trip I've had to book locations all the way up the coast, so that became very expensive and cut into my travel budget just a little bit, but it was well worth it. I would not change a thing. I ended up in each place that I was supposed to be at the exact right time. And I did work really hard to take this trip. So I started saving in 2021 when I went back to work, and saved all the way up until November. And I saved enough money to pay for my mortgage while I travel, to keep everything that I have and be able to travel, and also know my limitations. So I know when it's time to turn around and go home when my money starts running out. But that's right, I saved all my money and now I'm blowing it to travel, and it has been an experience, and I am so glad I did this. Is it a risk? Hell yeah, it's a risk. But I mean, who doesn't want to have this experience? Do you know how empowered I feel? How amazing I feel? And like, when I go back to work now, I can share love instead of bitterness because I have done exactly what I wanted to do. So my question to you is, what's holding you back from living your dreams? Maybe it's not as crazy as, quitting your job and traveling the country after you've saved your money, but you could do something else. Whatever your dreams are, you can make them work if you really want to. So do it. Don't sit there at home wishing you were doing what I'm doing. Figure out a way to do it and take a risk, a calculated risk. Don't sell everything, don't lose everything. Don't make dumb decisions, but make decisions that work for your lifestyle, and you could be out here doing the same thing too. One of the most frequent questions that I get is, what do you do all day? You want to know the truth? Nothing. That's right. I do nothing, or whatever I feel like doing, because I don't have to do anything. I quit my job. So I quit my job to travel, and I work downtown Nashville. I just save as much as I can save, and I quit and I travel, and then I go back to work if they'll take me back, which they have 3 times. Not always a guarantee, so there's a risk associated with this, but I do nothing, and it is glorious. So this was my dream. Everybody's dream looks different. There's ways to work while you're on the road. I just chose to do it this way because this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to know what it felt like to not have any obligations except for whatever the heck it was that I wanted to do. So here we are. In all reality, I don't do nothing all day because you have to scout your new locations, where you're going, map it out, travel, unhook, set up your camper, put your camper back together. I don't think these people that sell everything and jump into this lifestyle understand exactly what they're getting into, because you'll hear a lot of stories about a lot of people giving it up after their first year of van life, or not even making it through like a year of van life or RV life or whatever you want to call it. But I don't consider myself full-time. I am full-time-ish because I didn't sell everything to live this life. So I still have a home base in Nashville, and I still have my house. So I wouldn't consider that or try to take that title away from somebody who has clearly earned it. It's a badge of honor, to be able to have the guts to sell everything and, dive into something wholeheartedly like they do. It just wasn't for me. So I found what options work for me. But I also go for hikes. I also, drive around and I scout out new places to camp, or, read, or sometimes I just practice the art of Nixon, doing nothing. Why do we always have to be doing something? Isn't it okay to just be and to just listen to your body and listen to what you need? What are your next steps in life? Why do we always have to have a plan and something to do? Why aren't we allowed to just shut down and listen? I feel like we would be so much happier if we allowed ourselves to that time and that space to figure out exactly what it is that we want to do with our lives and possibly figure out our calling. And that's what I'm working on. Another frequently asked question, do I get lonely? Well, yeah, of course I get lonely, but I think everybody gets lonely, right? Like, that's just a common thing these days. After COVID and isolation, I think loneliness is just normal. I think figuring out a way to cope with that loneliness and to enjoy yourself more, which is what I'm doing, helps get past that loneliness. So now I have all these new amazing friends that I've met along the way from, there's so many. There was Daniel, Nadia, and John from, where was it? San Simeon State Park. They were amazing. There was also Kashini and Christian with their son in San Simeon, and they were the sweetest couple. They encouraged me to go to the Hertz Castle, which I am so glad they did because it was so much fun. I had an epic night at a location in close to San Luis Obispo at a hot springs where I met 5 other strangers, and we all ended up by the end of the evening collecting in the private hot tub and staring at the stars until 4 a.m. in the morning. And that's like one of those epic nights that like people write books about and stuff, and I have lived this. It's awesome. I met the most incredible couple in the group of 5 strangers that I met staring at the stars until 4 a.m. Nicholas and Jen, they live in Monterey, and they invited me to their home and opened it up to me, left keys outside the next day, and invited me to bring Charlie and Rupert into their home. And Jen has allergies to cats, and I just thought that was so sweet and so incredible of them. I can't even thank the people that I've met along the way enough for the hospitality that I've received. And then in Ferndale, I met Cindy and Dan and Kai. They were so nice. I stayed there for about 8 days in Ferndale, California at their at the county park there, and it was so nice to meet these people. I ended up having a going away party. They cooked lasagna for me. Cindy had a wonderful recipe. There's also my friends that I met in Nashville while I was working, and I got to meet up with them in Florence, Oregon on the way up, and they took me out to lunch. Darian and Ryan, thank you so much. And Ryan is a badass tattoo artist, just so you guys know. I have none, but if I was to get one, it would be from him. There's also Rick at Pismo Beach, who took me out for dinner and breakfast the next morning. He was so sweet. He had rebuilt a Suburban by himself into like a camper conversion, and it was an old vintage Suburban, and he did a great job with it. And then there was Lori and Al in I officially met them at a casino after we had camped together in Ferndale with the rest of the crew, Cindy and Dan and Kai. So it was just, I met them at the casino. We had a nice little chat. They knew I probably had a story of some sort, and we got to know each other pretty well. And then we went to go meet at the state park that they were camping at next, so that I could bum a shower while they stayed at the state park, because we all know that showers are few and far between while we're on the road. So that was a nice little thing that they did for me. And then they ended up cooking me dinner, and I was able to go do my laundry after I showered and come back to a nice dinner that they had prepared. And it was just lovely spending time with these people and meeting them. And let's see, I have met, gosh, the list just goes on. There are so many people, and I want to talk about everybody, and then probably tied for most epic experience on this trip, along with the hot springs hot tub experience, would be my new friends that I've made along the way. We met in Tillamook after camping at the same 2 previous locations, so this was our 3rd location together, and they recognized my camper, and the husband had come out to walk the cat at night. They have a 40-foot bus that's 19 tons, so they can't go everywhere that I can with this little guy, so it's kind of funny that we found ourselves on the same path. But he was walking his cat in Tillamook, and I was out walking Rupert, and we saw each other across the field and did the crazy cat person wave, and he's like, this is the third time we've been at the same campground. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to meet these people. So I went over and talked to him. I said, where are you going next? And they said that they were going to another state park that I was going to next. So that was going to be our fourth location. Unfortunately, we didn't have service at that location, so we didn't really reconnect at the same campground because it was a very large Henry Stevens in Astoria. It's a very large campground. It has several different loops, and they were on the opposite side. So we didn't connect. And then about 5 or 6 days, 6, 7, maybe a week later, I'm sitting out in the middle of the Olympic Peninsula with 2.3 million acres of land. And guess who pulls up behind me? My new friends, Don and Mella, who have their bus that they redid to live out of. It's amazing. They have 2 cats. And I will put a link down below or wherever it goes so that you can follow them. But I feel like they are going to be a lifetime of friendships because the universe forced us to meet. There was no not meeting these people while I was on this journey. And I kind of feel like they're in my life for a reason. And I just really enjoyed meeting them and their cats and their tiny home that they live in and travel all over the country and have some amazing adventures. There was also Lori and Dave. You guys, the list goes on and on, but Lori and Dave were so cute. They were this couple that I met also in the same place that Donna and Mella pulled up behind me in our 2.3 million acres on the Olympic Peninsula. But they were so sweet, and Lori has to keep her hubby Dave in line. So it's so fun to meet them. So it was just really neat to make these incredible connections with people, and then I'm starting to learn too, like the energy you throw out in the universe, you're gonna get it back. So I've been throwing more positive energy out and I'm getting more positive back. And I feel like that's just the way this world works. And sometimes you get to the opportunities to have these experiences that lead you to understand that better. So to answer the question, do I get lonely? Yes and no. So I've made so many memorable friendships. I feel so much love coming from so many different directions, from so many strangers that I meet, just curious about my story of what I'm doing. They see the cat, they see the dog, they see this tiny little awesome camper that I've got, and they want to know more. And this is some of it. But I think learning to love myself more on this trip allows me to receive love more. So the answer to that question is kind of get lonely, but not as much as, I mean, I was lonelier living in Nashville during the pandemic than I am in this moment right now, out in the middle of nowhere. And I had friends in Nashville, and I feel so bad because I have amazing friends in Nashville, and I had to work on myself first to feel that love that they're sending me. So this trip has really helped with that. Another common question I get is, do you get scared? Yes, I get scared, extremely scared at times, like so bad that my body is violently shaking scared. But if I think about it too long, I wouldn't be out here doing this. So it's one of those things where you really have to decide what's important to you, and you either have to ignore it and move on, or, you know, and be prepared, obviously, for any crazy situation that you might come across. The camping community out here is pretty neat, but you do have to use your gut. You can't ignore your gut. If something doesn't feel right, either move or, you know, move to a different location, or be prepared if things are not the way they seem to be. One of the things about having a trailer that I sleep in is I don't have the ability to jump in the driver's seat and take off if something doesn't feel right. So I have to get out of my camper and out of my secure zone to get into the driver's seat. And I've had some close calls with some weird, shady stuff that's happened. I'm not so much concerned about the animals. I've seen bears in areas that I've camped. I'm more concerned about, like, you know, being a single female out here and human interaction. I do have a dog. She is pretty protective. The cat is surprisingly even more protective than the dog, I think. He's a scary little man when he gets going. I've seen him go after a German Shepherd and bend the little steel that's on the side of my camper, trying to lunge out of his harness at this German Shepherd and scared him off. Long story. Anyway, I do get scared sometimes, but I did have something that happened to me in Monument Valley when I was traveling through with my old dog Kita, and we had stopped. I wanted to bring her through Monument Valley when her disease hit. It was called degenerative myelopathy, so it's basically where her back legs were starting to go paralyzed, and taking her on the road was not the right thing to do with this disease setting in. So I went ahead and took her home to make her more comfortable. But along the way, my grandmother was going to take me to Monument Valley when I was younger before she passed, and we never got the opportunity to go. So on the way to my grandfather's in Albuquerque, I wanted to find a home base where I could get settled to figure out what steps I needed to take with my dog for her end of life, just to recoup, and I didn't have to worry about trying to find a place to stay or, not being able to make her comfortable at the time. And I was in Monument Valley, and as I was packing up my camper, I thought, I'll just wait until she gets up. I'm not going to move her until she's ready to get in the car, because there's no point in disrupting her. She's peaceful right now. And I packed everything else up and just waited for her to make the move. And I was admiring the mountains, thinking about how blessed I was to have this time with her. And there was this white truck that comes down the hill. There's absolutely nobody around me. She had just hopped up at this time too, right before that truck started to show up. She got up, I picked her up. She was a 75-pound dog, loaded her in the back of my car, and I was just putting the hatch down whenever this truck pulled up. And the guy gets out of the truck, and I am on the driver's seat, and they pulled up on my passenger side. And it was during COVID, so he had a face mask on. And he said, "Hey, yeah, I need gas money." And I just looked at him and I was like, "I'm sorry, I don't carry cash when I travel." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, I told him, I said, if I did, I would give you some. And anyway, so then he was like, "Oh," and he started looking at my camper, and he's like, "You don't have a man?" And I was like, oh, hair on the back of my neck stood up. And I was like, "No, I have a dog." And at that time I didn't carry, so that was even more scary, I should say. And then after that, he kept looking at me funny, and I just looked at him after an awkward pause, and I said, "I'm sorry, I don't have any cash. If I did, I would give you some, and I hope you have a good day. I hope you get home fine." And I got in my driver's seat and I closed the door and locked it, and then he got back in his truck and drove off. But there was also somebody in his passenger seat, so it was two men against one woman and a dog out there, and he was blocking my way to turn around. So it was a very scary, sketchy situation, and I'm glad I came out unscathed. But there's a lot of people that go missing in that area too. So had I known that, I may have made different decisions, but sometimes I just dive into things without doing the proper amount of research, and I find myself in those situations. But I feel like I had a guardian angel that day, because my dog got up all of a sudden. I had been yard saled with all my belongings out there, and I hadn't packed up yet. I don't know what the outcome would have been. So yeah, I mean, there are times that I get scared, but you can't live your life in fear. Otherwise, I wouldn't be out here doing what I'm doing. Just to recap, at the beginning of this video, I told you I was going to be telling you what I was doing. So I'm traveling the country in my little tiny camper, and this is the third trip that we've had. How I'm doing it is probably the most interesting to people, because I don't fit into a little box. I kind of live an alternative lifestyle. I don't fit into van life, and I don't fit into not taking trips like this. But I work downtown, I save my money. When I get to a certain point with my savings, I quit and I travel until my money runs out and I go home. Simple as that. That's the way that I do it. It's not comfortable for a lot of people to do that, but you can't take it with you. And these experiences are worth more than that money that I made. So that's why I do it. And I just wrapped it all up. So that's why I do it too. More to the why. Gosh, all the people that I've met, these amazing experiences. This is not fun for some people, but for me it is an experience, and you get to feel, you get to get down to the nitty-gritty of life and learn so much about yourself and what you're capable of. And I'm capable of this. I can do this. I learned how to tow. I learned how to back the camper up. My dad is an excellent teacher. I'm so lucky for the guidance that I had along the way too. But it goes to show that no matter who you are, no matter what you do in life, You can live your dreams. You just have to be committed, and you have to figure out a way that works for you, because my way is not everybody's way. And my way is an extreme risk for a lot of people that have different things in their life. They're married, they have somebody else to think about, they have kids, they have, other things going on in their life. This was my dream. This is what I was able to do. And I just told you how I was able to accomplish it. So I hope that this inspires you to live your life differently, to think outside the box. I don't know why we always have to fit into a box, because we're not shaped like a box. So why do we always have to fit into it? It's about living the human experience, and that's what I'm doing. So I really hope to see y'all down the road on your own adventure, whatever that might look like for you. If you liked what you saw in this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. I don't know where the buttons are, but yep, please do, and I hope to see y'all down the road. Y'all take care.